Hello everyone. We're about to roll into step 3 of our life beginning in always. So before we start, we're gonna re-roll our traits here to see how we're gonna look for this next step. Our face shape is filled out a bit. Looking a little more lax. Our hair pulled back. And one more thing. And we got a pronoun change. We're transitioning. Very exciting. This comes to the transition, I suppose. Marks on us. Do we got a ring? Plain ring. There's a lot of options. Colors for nails. My outlook's gonna be all over the place, but it's fine. And however feelings evolve. Okay, we're still nervous. Have they intensified? Gonna let Cove be random. Since you're romantically interested in Cove and are old enough to start being physically affectionate more seriously, you can choose what initiative level he has throughout Step 3. Making sure the player experiences what they want is important in our life, but always putting your choice first can potentially make a relationship feel one-sided. So we've added some flexibility in how it works out. Low initiative means that Cove will occasionally ask to touch the MC. In those situations, there will always be an opportunity to say yes or no. For example, he won't simply lean over and kiss the MC as a greeting or an emotional moment. Every piece of physical interaction will be either initiated or approved by the player before it happens. Middle initiative means there will be those certain times when Cove requests to touch the MC, many chances to initiate affection on your own, and also Cove will pretty regularly give affection automatically. One example would be giving the MC a kiss because he's happy or emotional or something else. And in other situations, you can choose not to make the first move in order to give Cove the space to be the one to act afterwards. Overall, Cove can get romantic, but the player's agency will take priority. High initiative includes everything the middle does, but it also means that player agency will be reduced to a degree in favor of having Cove give physical affection even more frequently and with less prompting. Instead of all the major affection-giving situations being led by a choice menu for you to decide on, some will instead be replaced by Cove acting automatically. This level is only recommended if you're very comfortable with physical affection, and would prefer to simply see it happen rather than always holding the reins on it. However, this level is mostly relevant if Cove ends up as your official boyfriend at some point. Situations where high-level initiative makes a difference tend to come up in scenes that are exclusive to being in a relationship. The parts that are also included in the middle initiative will be seeing whether you're dating or not. Once you pick your level, it can't be changed later, so keep your full playthrough in mind when deciding. We hope you enjoy whichever initiative option you decide on. Or whatever my random number generator decides on, 1, 2, and 3. A low initiative. We're gonna be very chill. The start of classes ended in the relaxed free days of summer. It didn't take long for you to get back into the swing of the school year routine. Schedules and homework became the new normal. Derek wasn't around nearly as much. With school and after-school activities, there weren't many opportunities for him to take the trip out to your neighborhood. Sometimes you'd hear that he was at a training camp or something like that, but you weren't always sure what he was up to. He kinda lost contact as time went on, no. The Jeremy kid did disappear after that summer, and no one ever heard from him again. Where he went or what he might be up to was a mystery. More summers came and went, like the waves on the shore coming in and out. In your second year of high school, someone new started to visit Sunset Bird, a sunny girl named Terry Brooke. She was a friend Cove made due to them both being ocean-obsessed. Terry was more than glad to befriend you too. Someone close to Cove had to be good company, she felt. You were pleased to get along with her as well. Terry was tight with another girl who he had known distantly from school for a long time, Miranda Eckert. You saw more and more of her as time went on, thanks to Terry and Miranda's own outreach. After a while, all of you developed a real friendship together. You opened up to those you knew about your stuff and your identity. Family and friends accepted you with ease, and you happily were called she/her by everyone from then on. As for your home life, the Lasses also had developments. Changing laws and public perception countrywide made it possible for your moms to openly wear their wedding rings without questions. Though they had a wedding years ago, it was only recently that the union was officially recognized everywhere in the US. That's a good day, to say the least. Elizabeth came into her own and stopped being quite as irritable. She no longer worried about perceived childishness as she grew up for real. She didn't even mind being called Lizzie again, although most people use Liz. She eventually graduated high school and moved out to attend college in another state. It was a lot for you to adjust to your older sister being gone. Liz never let you forget her role in your life, though, and kept in touch. Bo's relationships with his family improved over the years. Kara visited several times after that summer, and things became easier between the two. He was also closer with his dad than ever before. He needed to talk more, and that helped prevent a lot of friction before he could start. However, Cove grew into someone no one would call social. He kept to himself usually. He cared for the few connections he did have, but didn't reach outside them. Cove's interests had shifted from when he was younger. He still enjoyed athletic activities on occasion, but now he had time to more studious endeavors as well. Things had shifted between you and Cove, but in a way that most couldn't see. After all this time, he wasn't just your neighbor. He wasn't only your friend, or even a guy you were interested in. You were in love with him. You loved Cove. You knew that fact for certain. There's no one else he held those feelings for. It was strange to look back on it all. The future faded into your present, then it was simply the past. Even the most fundamental parts of your life couldn't last forever. You felt that the most poignantly the day you inevitably graduated high school. It was over, and you were not going back ever again. From now on, what came next was your choice. You'd be directing your own life. That was where you were currently. The summer after school had ended. The first summer of true freedom. What used to be a reprieve from the typical was now going to be your first step into adulthood. One fine summer morning, you took in what had become a very special scene, the whole family having a meal together. Your big sister Liz still hadn't lived at home full-time for a couple of years, but she arrived last week to spend the season here since it was an off semester for her. She wanted to make sure she was in town because you had now also graduated high school, so who knew how much rarer these moments would become in the future. You watched on as Liz laughed good-naturedly over a comment Mom made. Her Elizabeth-only mindset had only been a phase. Really any nickname was welcome at this point in her life. Strangely, even though she moved away, you lately felt closer to her than you had in a long time. You oddly scooped up more of your breakfast and chewed absentmindedly. You're a vegan. In a minute you had reflected that. Your moms were happy to make food that fit your needs, along with dishes for themselves that didn't, so you often made your own food nowadays. But it wasn't only you who had a diet that excluded certain things, as Liz had been a vegetarian for a while. Conversation had gone on idly, without you fully taking in the words, until your ears were piqued when Mom started on a bit of town gossip. And so that's how I heard the news. Alright, now stop burying the lead and tell us, what is this so-called news? Ma giggled as she cast a look across the table, satisfied that she had everyone's attention. Well, it turns out the Donalds won't be renting out the condo up the street as per Sunset Bird tradition, for the first time in what must be nearly 2 decades. A chorus of gasp and shocked expressions were had all around. After the initial shock, your eyebrows pinched. Mom may consider them by name, but you and Liz always viewed them exclusively as the mean old couple who would yell at anyone under 25 who crossed their paths. Your mom continued on with the story, spraying strawberry jam over a piece of toast as she did so. They've decided not to take big trips anymore. Friends and family will be visiting them at their home. That's nice for them then. Have a good summer being grandparents with no grandkids, away from us. I hope they're still okay, even if they are mean. They've had a very full life. It's nothing to see us at. And you be nice, Liz. You don't want to end up like them, do you? You and your sister cracked smiles at the joke.
Well,
at least they won't be here to yell at my children anymore.
Lonnie.
And that blunt comment got laughter from all 3 of you. Engrossed in conversation once more, you continued to chat with your family until the meal was over. Step 3. 3rd time's charm. As it went, once the food was eaten, the cleanup had to be done. Liz took the role of washing the dishes and passed them to you for drying and putting away. You had a set of cups in front of you that needed to go on the top shelf of the cabinet. It was effortless to do. You were very tall. It was pretty incredible how you'd gone from tiny to tall in the past few years. Your moms were astounded. You didn't even know what to think about it. That part of yourself was never something you could really figure out your thoughts on. This took you out of your internal musing by starting up an impromptu conversation. You seemed to be voicing the thoughts that had been buzzing around in her own head. I have to say, going back for another semester this fall is pretty intimidating. You'd think after the first year or two I'd have a handle on things, but no. You still glance at her, still placing cups in the proper place. I guess it's only fair. My first round was pretty general classes, and year one of my architecture major was the basics. Now I feel serious. I have to actually know some things. The laugh she gave was flippantly airy, but the way she scrubbed at the plates held more force than necessary. I know you can handle it. How sweet of you to believe in me. Thanks. The older sister's mouth quirked into a small smile. You'll be fine, one way or another.
Oh.
But I'm not trying to scare you away from college, if that's even your plan. What is going on with that anyway? You hadn't even let yourself think about it. It was too much. You answered the question as much as you were able and willing to, as the smile grew more reassuring as you did. You made it through 12 years of full-time education already. You got plenty going for you. Sometimes it still felt hard to believe your public schooling experience was over. In the end, you soared through with high marks. And you wish it could have gone even better. I suppose you had done. You couldn't help feel disappointed if it wasn't as best as possible. Liz picked up on the silence her question ended up creating. She decided it was time to make a closing statement on the topic.
You're a good girl.
Do what's best for you, and we'll be here to back you up. Thank you. At that, Liz happily passed the final dish your way, gave the soapy-soaked hand as a farewell, and moved on to her next task for the cleanup job. You refocused on getting the last pieces put back where they belong. You eventually moved on to a new chore, but that was interrupted by the sound of your cell phone. It was the phone's default ringtone. You casually picked it up from the table where you had placed it earlier. The phone was a couple years old at this point, having been a 16th birthday gift from your parents. They decided which model to get, but you got to pick the color. It was... orange. And it was just a phone. You didn't do anything to decorate it. The screen lit up as you gave the little device a swipe with one finger. You informed by caller ID that it was Lee. You weren't surprised. Despite having busier and busier lives and not living in the same town, you still had a good relationship with your cousin at the same age. Especially once the miracle of the both of you having your own phones actually happened. She got hers first, though. Tapping at the accept button, you answered her call. A familiar, puppy voice came right after.
Hi!
Hey, Jamie! Hi, Lee. I just am not interrupting anything major. Only some cleaning around the house. Well, then you're welcome for my call. I'm distracted from that must have been desperately needed. Hey, I love doing chores, he joked.
Right?
Of course, who wouldn't? She giggled, and you hear the jangling of the jewelry she must be wearing. Nothing amazing happening for me either. I'm bored and felt like chatting. My morning shift ended, so I'm free for the rest of the day. Woo. That's good. You're off from your part-time job today. Like you, Lee had started dipping her toes into the workforce as of late. It made keeping in touch frequently even more complicated, but we both managed. What about you? It's been pretty normal.
Cool.
Let's see then. So, how's Mr. Copeholden doing? There was a teasing bent to her tone. She was never willing to let up on what was going on between the two of you. But that name was incredibly familiar to your ears. Cove, your next-door neighbor for the past decade at this point. The two of you were close. That was all you could think on it. What you had was special, whatever it was. Are you surviving without the boy being 10 feet away at all times? Or is everything right with the world again and he's back? No, Lee, he isn't here. Just like he wasn't here yesterday, or the last time you asked, or the time before that.
Sorry.
Oh, my bad. Can you blame me? Doesn't seem like he should have made his grand return already. Plus, I want to visit soon, and he needs to be there too. You could understand where she was coming from. This was certainly outside the norm. For the past couple of months, and the last few weeks especially, Cove had been going to a small place in Nevada. The two of you still regularly stayed in contact over texts and calls, but still. Your mind began to drift back in time to all the prior trips he'd taken to visit her. Almost every year he'd have to go away for a while and then he'd be back. was kind of nice to have breaks away from each other. He gave him special treasure to take with him before he left. Some were just to borrow and others were for him to keep forever. He sent you letters while there in return. That's how it was in the past, but lately he had been trying to see her as much as he could before taking long trips to another state became too impractical to do. This part-time work could become full-time soon, or he could be moving somewhere else for school. Cove hadn't actually been entirely clear what his plans were after graduation. Cove was hesitant to speak on that, being with you. It couldn't be avoided forever, though, you both knew that.
Well?
Maybe we should switch this up into a non-Cove related topic? Yeah. The rest of the conversation rolled on. Not much longer, though. Lee had to go, and you needed to finish your responsibilities around the house. They both exchanged goodbyes, then you went back to what you'd been working on before the call came in. As you wrapped up the last of your chores, you were approached by Liz wearing a cheeky smile. I got Mom's keys. Wanna get out of this tiny town to do some shopping in a real city? I can do that if you want me to come.
Good.
I'm driving. Even though you could drive too, it was her plan. She could do it if she wanted. Go get your wand and everything else. We're going now. With a nod, you made a quick detour to collect your stuff from your bedroom. You had money saved up from all the part-time work you've done, as well as stuff from gifts you've received. After making sure you both were fully prepared for the long haul to the largest city in the surrounding area, you buckled into the car. It was a smooth ride there, with light conversation about what shops to stop at and the radio blasting. The trip there breezed by, and in what felt like no time, you had gone from cruising down the road to cruising through the mall. Liz had her interests to check out, and you yours. You had gotten into new things since you'd grown up. Okay, here we go. Play the drums now. And I like to read. In general. And going to the beach and swimming. And enjoy learning new things. Still into fashion. Still into makeup. Lip shoes. Clothes. And like to hang out with people. Games are fun to you. You like to play in general. And time on art. Do more drawing now. Visiting galleries. Sculpting. Did we say that last time? I don't remember. Yeah, I think we did. And digitally. Painting. All the arts. Very artsy now. And that was everything major that came to mind. We're not in sports anymore. Entering a corner down the new length of the mall, your eyes caught on a little gift store. Your friends and family had recently given you many presents for graduating high school. You really appreciated what you had gotten. It was thoughtful of them. Eventually, the mall was explored in full, with every shop of note being checked over. Rather than going home, you decided to walk over to some smaller stores nearby. There's had many thoughts on that topic.
So?
Honestly, malls are not a bastion of society. Even smaller stores require extra distance to branch so much more. Then your sister abruptly stopped speaking and walking right in the middle of the path. It's a good thing no one was behind her. She seemed to entirely shut up for a moment. Liz? The attempt to catch her attention was unsuccessful. Something else had all her focus. Before you could puzzle what might be happening, she began to mumble out of the corner of her mouth. Amy, don't draw attention, but look. What? With a harsh whisper and a subtle jerk of her head, she urged you once more.
Hey!
Look! You followed her gaze as best you could to a large bunch of colorful teens strolling down the same path. Okay. You faced back over to your sister with a confused expression and an unspoken question. What were you supposed to be seeing there? Jamie, doesn't one of them seem familiar? She was practically bouncing at this point, so you looked the group over again, and this time you saw what she was seeing. Amongst a collection of strangers was brown hair, gray eyes, and lots of freckles. Shiloh! You're Shiloh, from when we were kids! Yep, that was definitely him. I can't believe it! He's honestly just there! That's hilarious, that's incredible! Oh, but how do we talk to him? You have to pull him away from all those other people, and what if I'm wrong? Your mouth opened to reply, but she cut it off with her own answer to the question. I've got it. I'll shout the name Shiloh, and then we can act like it wasn't us. If he responds to that, we'll know without doubt it's him. Jamie, keep an eye out to see if he looks. Why do I have to be the one who watches? Likely without even hearing what you had to say, Liz put her plan into action. Shiloh! She loudly projected the word across the way, then put in an act of casualness, turning her head away from the scene while brushing at the skirt of her dress. In a supremely awkward moment, you could only stand there as attention in the area shifted to two of you thanks to your sister's shout. But after many startled bystanders who became alerted to your presence, one of them was the boy. From a distance, his large eyes met yours. He looked. A wide grin took over Liz's face. She pushed the rim of her sun hat up and away from her face while swishing back around to greet her old friend directly. Shiloh! Waving, she stepped a bit closer to express her intention to meet, without really closing the gap. She wanted him to come to her. Who you presumed to be Shiloh looked surprised at the call-out. He saw a quick glance at the crowd he was with and hesitantly glanced back to your way. He was trying to double-check something. He just remained steadfast with their gaze trained on him, and ultimately he broke away from the rest of them. After a light-footed jog across the brick path, the young man pleasantly presented himself in front of Liz and you.
Hi!
I like your hat. Just that simple and greeting had Liz giggling.
Hey!
Hello. I'm not sure if you remember this, but I'm Lizzie and that's Jamie. We're all friends when we were little kids. His already wide eyes grew even larger, a gaze starting between you and Liz. His previously chipper demeanor played into something delicate. I'm really sorry, but I think you have the wrong person. You could tell not being instantly recognized was going to make this exchange more of a challenge. Still, Liz was undeterred. It was a long time ago. You were really young. I get why you feel like that. Or I'm positive I'm right. You're exactly the same. That face, the freckles, how genially you try to phrase things. You were still wearing a hat. Instinctively, he looked up at his headwear with creased brows, not making the connection on why the hat meant something to her.
Okay.
We knew each other, okay? An uneasy smile settled on him as a silence followed Liz's speech. He was picking his next words carefully. And then the quiet was obliterated by a new voice bursting into the conversation. Shiloh, what are you doing? The rest of the group already left. The field trip is not a vacation, we're on a schedule. Startled, your head snapped towards the path. A distinctly unhappy individual with piercing magenta eyes, dark brown skin, and a sharp jaw stormed your way. He carried a cloud of authority with him, despite looking like he wasn't even 18 yet.
Sorry!
I didn't mean to ditch. Shiloh, whose name was now officially confirmed, gestured with a hand to add to the explanation of his absence as the stranger watched impatiently. They thought they recognized me as someone they knew, but it was a tiny misunderstanding. Liz theoretically as well as literally put her foot down at that, stomping in frustration and getting more childish the longer she was around her childhood companion.
Come on!
We do know you! Shiloh merely shrunk in on himself. The tone he spoke with was pain. Sorry. And also, he couldn't tell if he was apologizing for the upset feelings of your sister or the palpable dissatisfaction of his new acquaintance. That in itself was very Shiloh-like. Oh, you know him, is that it? The stranger spoke in a dismissively scoffing tone, as if the words sounded so absurd to him it was almost amusing. Almost. But the sternness of his demeanor quickly reinstated itself. Well, you know me. I'll tell you, I'm someone who's been forced against his will to be aware of what's going on in Shiloh's ridiculous personal life for a year. If two of you have any importance in this general day-to-day existence, it would have come up by now. No bother trying to exaggerate any trivial connection you might have, it's not good enough. He's with us and you'll survive without him. Now stop loitering in the road, it's rude.
Excuse me?
We're the rude ones? The high-strung ranting got an audible gasp from Shiloh, who finally started to speak up again in defense. Nate, that's really mean. It's also true. We're leaving. With that declaration, the unofficially introduced Nate indignantly spun on his heels and walked speedily towards where the group went, completely confident that Shiloh would follow behind. People can sure have bad attitudes, huh? Why can't they just try to get along? It's not hard. Don't worry though, I bet you won't have to deal with him again. I'm sorry I can't stay to talk to you, but I hope you have a really nice life.
Bye!
And that was it. His final parting words given, Shiloh left the two of you behind to catch up with his own life that he had to go live. Liz watched his exit, stunned, only to frown when it hit her that he was really gone as quickly as he appeared. It happened so fast he hadn't even been able to get a word in. She sighed, all the energy she built up releasing with the breath. I could have told him his last name was Fields, his birthday was October 30th. That would have proved it, but no. I couldn't help but laugh. You knew it wasn't funny to your sister, but it was just so weird and unexpected. Aren't you gonna go after him? Liz merely shook her head, fishing up childish thoughts. I think we can leave it here, thanks. He's in the middle of a high school field trip, and it was already enough being able to see him. There's something reassuring about witnessing firsthand that he's still out there, enjoying his own part of the world. Though if given the chance, I could definitely have a few words with him about the company he's got. She laughed, but you could tell there wasn't much humor to it. She was mad at the guy, even if she was happy to let Shiloh go. Maybe they're only with each other because of the trip and it's not usually how things are.
Right?
True. We can only hope the same for him as he did for us. Have a nice life, Shiloh. Have a good life. Liz smiled at you. You had the self-confidence you knew so well from her. Come on, little baby sister. Let's finish her own trip. Yeah. No matter how either of you really felt about the occurrence, it was something you simply had to accept. People you know just disappear and reappear in the most unexpected ways. The two of you enjoyed what remained of your outing until it was time to return home. By the time you arrived back, the sun was already beginning to set. You arched your back as you stretched your arms towards the ceiling. While it had been a good day, you had enough activity to cover an entire week. Liz tried to hide a yawn behind her hands. You weren't the only one feeling worn out. I'm heading up to your room, the guest room, since mine stopped being available as soon as I was out the door. Her tone was light. She had had quite a lot to say on the subject when you'd first taken over her bigger room after she left for college, but there have been many trips back home for her since then. The room hasn't been hers for years. It's more of a running joke now that she continued to bring up the topic to this day. Let it go, Liz. Never. A small laugh was shared between you and your older sister.
Mm-hmm.
You better believe you'll be back in the guest room when you've got your own place and we're both in town for a visit. That's right with me. I don't need it. Sweetie, there's such a thing as being too generous. At least you have me to look out for you again. She flashed her familiar grin and you couldn't help but feel glad she was back around, even if it was temporary. With that, she plodded off to the spare room. You're ready to do the same. Moving into a new space was your first opportunity to decorate from scratch. Okay, what kind of room do we have? Got it. The purple layout. No extras. And stuff for the windows. Very naturey. You're really satisfied with the feel of your tiny part of the world. As your thoughts drifted, you tried to bite down another yawn. It was no good. Your bed was now lodged in your mind, and all you could think about was collapsing on it. You trudged up the stairs to your room. Stepping aside, you closed the door behind you, blocking the rest of the house. When you turn back around, you realize you're now alone there. Comfortably perched on the windowsill was someone very familiar to you. Cove Holden. The shock knocked all words out of you. Surprise? His tone was easy and relaxed. It certainly was a surprise. He hadn't expected him to be within the state, never mind your own house. He hadn't answered how he had suddenly disappeared back in Sunset Bird, but to be fair, you'd been too astounded to actually ask the question. Thankfully, Cove took the hint from your stunned expression and being to explain.
So...
I got in about 15 minutes ago. No one was home, so I figured I'd come in the usual way. The window. A small smile had formed on his face. You're still staring at him, unable to blink in case he disappeared. You could still barely believe that he was really there, mere feet away from you. I left my bags in your backyard. I hope that's alright. That was when you truly understood. Cove had come straight to you upon getting back to town. You were his first port of call, taking precedence above all else. Even though you hadn't been in when he called, Cove had ensured that he'd see you at the earliest opportunity rather than allowing his plans to change. The realization made you bashful. It wasn't news to you were special to Cove, but the way he prioritized you above everything else was something that flustered you. Cove dropped from his seat on the windowsill, landing lightly on his feet. He made his way over to you, the smile still resting on his face. I can't believe my eyes, it's the most amazing man in the world. He pulled him to a bone-crushing hug. Cove squeaked as you crushed the air from his lungs. He awkwardly managed to wrap his own arms around your back in return. He moved to wrap his arms around your shoulders, and he tucked his head into your neck. His breath was warm against your skin. Cole was a little much, Jamie. His voice was slight, modestly batting away your compliment. It only served to underscore how much he deserved it. I don't think it is. I missed you. Even if he hadn't said it outright, you would have gotten the message from his body language. Cove was grinning wryly, his raised cheeks burying his eyes, which gleamed like hidden gems. But he looked at you as if you were the most exciting treasure of all. Was it a good trip? Yeah. Cove told you about how his trip back had gone. His mom was doing really well. She had a project in the works that she was thrilled about. As a result, Cove was going to be sticking around in Sunset Bird for the time being. Things were settled as much as they would ever be. The Cove back once more, you felt at ease. Cove stretched his arms out over his head, his eyes on the window and the world beyond. The sun had set while he'd been busy reuniting.
Well...
I should probably get my stuff and see Dad. He glanced over to you with a familiar, expectant look. Want to come with me? You know I do.
Cool.
Cove began to head to your bedroom door. You followed after him. The two of you casually went down to the ground floor of your house. Cove's surprised arrival had wiped your earlier discovery from your mind. Now that you had a chance to recover, you figured you'd tell Cove the intriguing news. I saw Shiloh today.
Huh?
Shiloh? Cove repeated the name, his expression blank. Remember we were kids? Cove pondered for a moment, then snapped his fingers. Oh, he was the freckly boy from that first summer, right? The one who moved? Uh-huh. I met someone called Shiloh. He looked just like the Shiloh from back then. Well, he waved a hand acknowledging the passing of time and so forth. Cove nodded understandingly. He didn't remember me. Then he had to go. Cove frowned. That's, I don't know. Too bad I missed it. Though you knew him better than I did. That was definitely true. Not only had Cove known Shiloh for a shorter period of time, but he and Shiloh had never quite gotten along. Not that they were enemies either, just kids who were only ever together because of other people they both knew. I wonder what Shiloh's up to these days. I don't have any idea. He didn't say much.
Oh.
Oh well. That was everything you had on that news item, so you moved on to the next big update. Also, you know the mean old neighbors? The one who would always yell at us? He cringed, recalling those particular memories of back in the day was not pleasant even for someone as nostalgic as him. Yeah. You're not coming. They didn't rent the condo this summer. Cove's jaw dropped. He didn't blame him. The elderly couple had been in institution for as far back as you could remember, long predating Cove's arrival. Even now as a teenager, you found your neck prickling as you walked by their condo, half expecting a scolding for breathing the wrong way in the vicinity of their vacation home. It was strange to think of that coming to an end. Wow. Cove blinked, maybe struggling with the idea in the same way you had. I didn't see that coming. People being gone, people coming back. It feels like I've missed a lot. This has been a busy summer already. Well, you haven't missed the fireflies. They haven't shown up yet. Well, that's something. You better not get left behind. There's still stuff to do. He nodded. The two of you headed out and chased the most familiar path you'd ever walked, the trip across the road over to Cove's house. It seemed that no sooner had the night begun that it was already at an end, and the dawn of a new day was soon upon you. The next morning your belly was full of breakfast and you were in a pleasant mood. You hope the rest of the day followed suit. Later, you were meeting up with your friends, Cove, Miranda, and Terry, to go into town. It was all on short notice, but that was because everyone was just so excited that Cove was finally back home. Having a nice daydream? You blinked, pushing all your thoughts away and returning to reality. Your mom was watching you with a teasing smile.
Alright.
So, what's on the agenda today? I'm meeting up with some people. Well, I hope you and your friends have fun. Don't get into too much trouble. She winked at you. You knew both of your moms wanted you to enjoy every bit of this summer before all the big changes started. I'll try.
That'd be great.
Before you go gallivanting all around the town, could you bring in the mail in? I'm finishing up putting the dishes away over here. Alright. Thanks very much. As soon as you were outside the front door, you couldn't help but see Cove and his dad standing around the road. He knows you too.
Hey.
Hey there, Jamie. Cove smiled lightly and waved. And you began making your way over, he added. Hi. He gave him a high five. Finding his bottom lip, Cove lightly slapped your hand. His flesh deepened as your mouth curled into a grin. You noticed Mr. Holden was taking in the scene of you and Cove with a self-satisfied smile. Cove followed your line of sight and shot his dad an unimpressed look. For a moment, Mr. Holden seemed like he had a thought dancing on the tip of his tongue, but he decided to keep it to himself.
So,
What are you up to today? You held up the envelopes in your hand. I was getting the mail.
right.
And we're meeting some friends in town for a while. He looked at Cove and nodded in agreement. Sounds like a plan to me. Yawning, Mr. Holden stretched his arms over his head. My boy and I have just been waiting around to see what the new neighbors are like. It is definitely his idea. I don't know how you're not interested in this. It's big news. Besides, you'd only be polite to greet the new folks in town. Her response was just a shrug. You weren't concerned either way about it. If I run into them, okay. If I don't, I won't think much of it.
Right.
Fair enough, especially with everything happening for you this summer. On the topic of what came after this, you tuned Mr. Holden out momentarily and looked at Cove. He nodded understandingly. Mr. Holden took one more glance at the currently vacant building and sighed dramatically. When he turned back to you and Cove, his whole body seemed deflated. There's no sign of them, and I still need to head over to work soon. Cove gave his dad a few reassuring pats on the back. Okay, I promise to keep an eye out. I can text you if anything happens. Really?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, only until I have to meet up with Terry and Miranda. Does that still work? With a wide grin breaking on his face, Mr. Holden looked absolutely thrilled to have his nosiness enabled. That works. He moved to firmly place both hands on Cove's shoulders, fixing his child with a firm stare. Son, you're my true ally in this world. Mr. Holden stood up straighter, letting Cove go. He looked reinvigorated. Okay, if that's settled, I'll go make some money. That's always been the one thing I do best. Mr. Holden headed off to the garage with a big wave goodbye. Cove smiled the whole time you both watched his dad leave. Cove's dad was kind of a bother. He just wasn't someone you're ever very interested in having around. As soon as he was out of sight, Cove sighed lightly. You okay?
Yeah.
Just not looking forward to waiting. Guess I'll be hanging around the street a while. Look. Despite the slightly teasing tone to your voice, he meant it. and Cove would rather be doing anything else than this, but you figured the wait wouldn't be too much longer. Cove frowned hearing that. He looked away from you and pouted. You could tell they clearly wanted you to stay. He smiled just a bit. He didn't realize he wanted you to wait for them that badly. Bye, Cove. Okay. Jamie, you're so tsundere. His shoulders slumped a bit, and he said to the beat. He walked up towards your house, double-checking that you retrieved all the mail and went inside. Your mom met you shortly after you closed the front door.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. You started shuffling through the envelopes idly, and you took that as your moment to head upstairs to your room. Time quickly passed by your relaxing peace and quiet. When you looked at the clock, you noticed that it was close to when you had mentally planned to head out to town. You got yourself together and left your home, waving to your parents along the way. You're surprised to still see Cove outside. He was sitting hunched over on his front porch step, busy scrolling through something on his phone. The neighbors haven't moved in? As you approached, Cove's gaze flicked up at you, his mouth pulled into a half-hearted smile. Nothing's happened yet. I'm sorry. He wasn't expecting that response. Cove put his phone back in his pocket.
Why?
What? You had to wait out here the entire time. I thought they would have come by now. Me too. It's gotta happen sometime. Yeah. The neighborhood was quiet and you sighed contentedly, closing your eyes and feeling the light breeze. Eventually you both perked up at the sound of a car. A taxi followed the noise, bringing you onto your street. Cove's eyebrows raised at that sight, and he sat up straight on the stoop.
Oh?
This has to be them, right? I hope so. Now that they were here, you couldn't help but feel just a bit curious. You wondered what kind of person would be living in the neighborhood for the summer. The taxi pulled to a stop as you expected in front of the now empty condo. It was on the same side of the street as your house, a few buildings further up. Without getting to his feet, Cove tried leaning and tilting his head to get a view of the passenger door as it opened. The single occupant exited the cab. Huh? You could feel what Cove was in that moment. After the last renters, this new visitor was definitely not exactly what you expected. It was a young man. Had to be close to your own age. He was dressed fully in an eclectic black, white, and gray outfit. Even his side-swooping hair matched the scheme. The only other pop of color was from something that couldn't easily be fashioned to submission, a pair of dark brown eyes which you caught when he looked over at his audience. Hello, folks. Who might you be? We're the neighbors. The smile already prominent on his face curled further. It was cocky, but you didn't get the impression it meant something at first. Hallelujah. You and Cove shared a familiar look with one another, bewildered even further. The color-coordinated man left it there, however, and with a firm click, he shut the door of his ride. He turned his back to you to retrieve a large, unsurprisingly black suitcase out of the trunk. Continuing on to his own business, he strolled forward and lightly tapped on the driver's side window with his knuckles, asking for them to roll it down. When it opened, he leaned down and rested his arm on the edge. You assumed he was thanking the driver for getting him there, considering he slipped him a tip during the brief chat. They shook hands, and then he pushed himself up and away from the taxi with both arms, giving the driver room to leave. The taxi pulled away, rolling carefully down the road and out of sight around the corner. The new renter had officially arrived. You left the suitcase on the ground out of the way in the street, and sauntered over your way with the confidence of someone who had been invited to join. Cove finally stood up to greet this person. You followed suit.
Excellent.
I'm Baxter Ward. It's excellent to meet you, neighbors. You were standing on the side he was approaching from. When Baxter got close enough, he offered you his hand to you first. You offered to low-five him. Actually made it work and twist his hand to oblige your being of choice. I'm Jamie. Hello, it's nice to meet you too. Hey Jamie, I'm quite keen on getting to know you better this summer. We could be good friends. From the other side, Cove made a sudden sputtering noise. And you are? He lifted his hand and out to Cove next. Cove instead crossed his arms to express his rejection of that idea, still eyeing Baxter carefully. I'm Cove. Baxter's whole demeanor lit up for unknown reasons. His eyes shone as he studied Cove for a moment.
Really?
Now wait, is that a nickname or your real name? It's just my name. Cove spoke mildly, having given the explanation many times in the past. Very clearly charmed Baxter all the same. He tossed his head to one side with a laugh. Your parents knew exactly what they were doing. I can't imagine a more fitting name for the face I'm seeing. Cove. It's gorgeous.
What?
It's really not. He didn't know what to say. After a noticeable pause, Baxter caught on that he made you both uncomfortable.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't intended to mean more than it did. I like your name, but you don't have to mind that. I'm patently against stepping on anyone's toes. He chuckled to himself. He's saying there's some extra meaning hidden there in his words, and you noticed that Cove raised an eyebrow, picking up on that too. Baxter didn't even open his eyes to see your faces to know he had some filling to do. He stood up straighter, striking a slight pose with the position of his feet. I'm a ballroom dancer, hence the phrasing. Oh, I don't know much about dancing, but that's pretty cool. It's not hard once you get the basics down. Cove didn't look convinced at all. Baxter took that as a cue to keep talking.
Well,
He grinned in a way that was rapidly becoming familiar to you. If either of you are ever looking for a partner, I'm available. Cove frowned at the overt forwardness. Thanks? I'll pass, I think. I'd rather not. Baxter nodded understandingly and let the subject go. After that, there was a long conversation, and Cove attended to fill it.
So...
What made you decide on Sunset Bird? Oh, yes. Well, my parents rented a condo, so I had a place to stay while I'm off for a semester from college and not living in the dorms. There's a playful glint in Baxter's eyes as he continued.
honestly,
Ideally, they wanted to send me somewhere that wasn't too exciting, but lucky for me, they picked the wrong street. Guess only two of you live here. Cole was practically reeling over how Baxter found a way to fit comments like that into every single topic thus far. Why do you keep doing that? You don't know us, but you talk like you already do. Cove spoke. No, firm yet generously confused. Then Baxter smiled cautiously. I don't feel the need to keep words of praise to myself, and when I say something, I mean it.
see?
That's what's the point of spending my off semester alone. The best part of being somewhere new is getting to interact with new people. Am I honestly the first person who's acknowledged you're attractive and intriguing people? True, you're hidden away in a tiny tourist trap, but still. Baxter crossed his arms. After studying your faces a few more seconds, he decided to continue. Am I only trying to score, hook up, or get a romantic fling started by saying those things? No. That isn't the point of speaking well of others. I was raised better than that. Though, would I be fussed if that's what my words led to? Also no. I am flexible. Not surprised, I can back off with the lines if you don't like the attention, but I would like to be friends if we can. Cove wasn't sure how to respond. He glanced at you and he continued to look at your face when he spoke. Thanks for answering. I'm not interested in any of that with you. Maybe not the friend thing, but the other part. Doesn't bother me. Glad we're working things out. Dipping his weight to his other foot, Baxter tried to move forward. So, since you were both already out here, did my arrival interrupt anything? Definitely not. You smiled and silently agreed. If Cove wasn't going to say anything, neither were you. Baxter didn't need to know how much of today was spent waiting to see who was moving in. Baxter watched you both carefully for a hint of what was going on, but decided not to pry any further. Well, if either of you are free, I'd be thrilled to hang out this summer. But we can save the scheduled talk for later. I should get my things inside. He gave a small nod of the head and flashed you both a dazzling smile.
Goodbye.
For today. Cove simply waved goodbye. Bye. Baxter then turned on his heels and strolled back to his suitcase, picking it up and bringing it to his condo. He and Cove were silent as Baxter unlocked the door and disappeared inside the house. But then, completely out of the scene, Cove let out a long breath.
Well...
I don't know how I'm gonna explain that guy to my dad. He burst into a fit of laughter trying to imagine the conversation. So, you like it when people say sort of stuff about people? It's okay to do it? Never mind. At least the job's done. We saw the new neighbor, and now we can go meet up with Terry and Miranda. Yeah, we should get going. You gave Baxter's condo one last glance over your shoulder. You were looking forward to seeing more of him. Baxter was different, but you liked him. Smiling, you hoped that he would become a good friend this summer. Turning your attention back to Cove, he pushed all thoughts of Baxter aside. You both started making your way towards town. A little while later, you and Cove reached the main street in town. All of a sudden, you stopped walking. What's wrong? I think I heard my phone. You dug your cell phone out and looked at it with a satisfied grin. There's a new message. You opened a new text from Miranda and all you saw was, "I can see you." Immediately from where you stood, you started swiveling your head around. You couldn't spot Miranda anywhere, but she did send you more messages. I see you looking. Really, Randy? The message was sent, and you were back to looking around, scanning for any sign of movement and familiar faces, but they were still invisible. Cove looked at you carefully, raising an eyebrow. You burst into laughter at her antics. Cove looked at you puzzled, raising an eyebrow. He crossed his arms. What's happening? Before you could even begin explaining anything to Cove, you both snapped your attention to the yelling from across the street. And there you saw Miranda and Terry coming out from behind the backside wall of the grocery store. They both started waving wildly to draw even more attention to themselves. Cove took a step in their direction. He grinned and waited for them to get closer. Laughing an arm in arm, the girls stopped pulling to look both ways and then rushed across the empty street.
Hi.
Oh, we weren't waiting too long.
Hey, buddies.
Hi. I'm amazed. How did you appear out of nowhere like that? They started giggling again. Cherry glanced at Miranda, wondering what their story should be.
Ooh.
It was magic. Dressing in a vaguely whimsical manner, Cherry went along with the decision. And magicians never reveal their secrets. Ooh. That's fair. Cherry then closed the distance between her and Cove and crushed him in a painfully tight hug. You're finally here! It's been so long! What took you? He did his best to eke out a reply with his chest being compressed.
Sorry.
Eventually, she let him go. They looked at him with a beaming smile, but Cove was distracted, rubbing his arms. Standing there, Miranda shifted her weight into her other hip. She watched Cove patiently with a bashful smile. Welcome back! Thanks. It finally felt official. Everyone's together in one place. From here, you weren't sure how often you'd have another afternoon like this again. They didn't either.
So?
Cove? Cherry poked Cove square in the chest. You're gonna get me your schedule by this time yesterday.
No way.
Not really possible, Cherry, but I can say it as soon as I know. So far work hasn't said anything, but I can tell you I'm busy with work activities. When Cove wasn't at his part-time job or pursuing his athletic and academic interests, he volunteered for the Ocean Restoration California Affiliation, ORCA. The group focused on cleaning up beaches and removing pollution from the ocean. Cove always loved the sea. It didn't surprise you one bit when he started getting involved with them. It was Cove's activity. The big Smash event for the year is coming right up, isn't it? Yeah, it's not that much more to do before then, but I'm kind of looking forward to the fundraising push. He nodded, wondering how the event would turn out this year. I know you can do it. Even if it goes really bad, you'll still look good and accomplish an application at least. That's true.
Hey!
Hey, guess what else? You didn't have to stand here to say stuff. Let's go! I would like a meal now. Picking up, Cove nodded in agreement. Excited by that plan, he smiled. The four of you headed into town, happily chatting the whole way. The only decision left to make was where exactly to stop and eat. The rest of the afternoon and evening passed by in the blink of an eye. When the night fell, it was time to head home, and you parted ways with Miranda and Cherry. You and Cove reached your neighborhood without event. It was late enough that your out-of-the-way street was dark and silent. You show up with a skip in your step. Days like today, filled with good food and good company, left you feeling energized. As you walked alongside Cove, you peered at his face out of the corner of your eyes. You wonder why he felt so distant to you. He was out of character. For a while, Cove silently stared ahead and left you alone with your own thoughts. It surprised you when you did hear his voice all of a sudden. He still wouldn't look at you. It feels weird coming back to the neighborhood and trying to get into things like you're the same. When you're not. You've changed. You're still changing. Your mouth felt uncomfortably dry all of a sudden. It was true. The things that kept the people you knew together were starting to disappear. Each person had to make their own priorities and their own path now that it wasn't set for them. You thought about your own immediate future. If you had to choose this in this very moment, you wanted... to work full-time. And that was the basics. For a career, you thought you'd start your own business. Or find a company to work at. That was all. And for that, you wanted to travel around to different places. That'll be happening so soon. You hadn't begun to do anything about that yet. And you kept all this to yourself. And you wonder what Cove had in mind. You heard him consider some things for his future, but it was never anything that would have counted as a real plan. Making it back home, you both stopped in the middle of the street. Cove sighed. Cove looked at the ground for a moment. His mouth trembled, trying to settle on the right words to say.
So...
What do you think you're gonna do now? For the future? You explained what you were thinking. You did your best to articulate what he could expect from you, and he listened quietly. Cove closed his eyes and nodded while he composed his thoughts. He looked at you when you lifted his head.
I mean...
I decided on something. Well, kind of. He smiled slightly and rubbed his arm. Then his expression grew more serious. I'm not gonna decide on a school or a career. Not this summer. I'm gonna stay here. At least in Sunset Bird. I'll probably move out of my dad's place. I'll keep working my job, keep doing my volunteer stuff and everything else.
I don't know.
Maybe I'll know what I want for myself by fall. Or next year, or maybe I'll never have a plan. I will continue on with whatever's happening. I'm not gonna question myself trying to have everything figured out by a timeline that someone else has set. I just can't do it. His brow furrowed and his tone was tense. It was clear how much expectations were weighing on him. I know that's not very exciting, but it's the best I can do right now. He laughed self-derisively, but with the way his face looked, he thought he actually wanted to cry. He looked at him deeply. Your plan sounds very you. Nothing about his plan surprised you. Honestly, you felt like you should have seen it coming, but regardless, he had to support him every step of the way. He exhaled, releasing some tension in his shoulders. Thanks for hearing me out on this. You knew him well enough to know that Cove wasn't feeling completely better about the way things were. No matter what's happening, I want you to know that you won't ever lose me. I won't really be gone. I'll still be there for you the best I can, whether it's long distance or whatever else. Cove's whole expression softened. His lips pulled into an affectionate smile.
It's okay.
Jamie, you deserve to have everything you want in life. You laughed at his bold declaration. You couldn't help yourself. You couldn't believe what you were hearing. Looking at you fondly, Cove took a step closer. He spoke to you softly. Wholeheartedly, he meant every word. Things are hard right now. It scares me, but it'll be okay. It'll be more than okay. Now that things are up to us, we can make our lives better than they ever were. You believed him. No matter how daunting the future could be, he was right. You would be okay. Deeply you met Cove's gaze. He nodded. At that his expression morphed into a look of careful confidence. Clearly he was still struggling with this topic, and you wondered what else might be on his mind. This is a start, I think. But it's not over, is it? We'll have to keep talking about it going forward. Yeah. Cove softly reiterated his promise. It'll all be okay. We'll still always be there for each other. Is that good with you? It is. Cool. That's cool. I'll see you tomorrow, Jamie. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Good night.
Then Cove started walking away, but you remained there, frozen in the middle of the street. You watched him and wondered, how many more times will he be able to say that I'll see you tomorrow? You hoped for countless more times. Finally you turned towards your own house. You vowed to yourself that you would make the most out of every moment you had this summer. The trials of young adulthood. We're gonna start with some talks. Another placid summer day was drifting by. Your daydreams were chasing each other, none sticking around long enough to become a firm plan. But you didn't really mind that right now. Tapping worked its way into those dreams. Focusing more, you realized it was coming from your window. A grin popped on your face as though it had been waiting all day for this moment. Heading to the window, you could see Cove outside. His habit of climbing this way really was a true Coveism. You better scale your house, then wait a couple extra minutes for you to come down. You held out a hand to him. You offered Cove a hand to help him. Once he was mostly inside, he took it to help steady the last bit of his entrance. Though considering how many times he'd done this, he hardly needed the help.
Hey.
Jamie. Hi, Cove. Glad you made it in, okay? Cove laughed at that and took one last look at his exclusive entrance. He hummed with a teasing look on his face. Yeah, I think it's pretty impressive that I managed to keep this up without ending up with a new broken bone. Oh no, don't joke about that.
Sorry.
I'll probably be alright. Cove's voice came out quietly, with a strangely pleased smile on his face. Did something happen? Cove opened his mouth to answer, only to have your phone ringing cutting him off. You both turned to where it was rested a little further up on your bed, just so face down so you couldn't tell who was calling. It's okay. Your attention shot back to Cove. He smiled at you awkwardly.
Don't worry about it.
Go check. It could be important. I'll wait. Thanks. You shuffled forward and scooped the little noisemaker in your hand. You flipped it over and checked the caller ID. It's Miranda. She answered it. I want to say hi too. With a nod, you accepted the call and said to speaker. Hi, Miranda. Hi. There was something off about her tone. Cove met your gaze, and you saw the same confusion in his expression.
Have you heard from Terry?
At all? Or did you hear about her from Cove? Huh? No, she hasn't called me, but Cove's with me right now. Hey. Oh, hi, Cove. Is that what you were gonna say? He shook his head no, before realizing that it wasn't a good enough answer when one person couldn't actually see it.
No.
Jerry hasn't called me today either. Is something wrong? At that, Miranda couldn't hold herself together any longer. The muffled sobs from the other side of the line were unmistakable. Jerry doesn't like me anymore, if she ever did. What? That doesn't sound right. You're probably your best friend out of all of us. Yeah, why do you think that? She sniffled and there was a pause and you could hear her shift the phone to her other hand. Jerry was here another night watching movies with me. We were up super late. She realized her parents probably went to bed so they couldn't pick her up. My mom and dad were definitely asleep then. Dad works early. I tried telling her that it was okay to just spend the night and she could text her parents what happened, but Terry really didn't want to. You glanced at Cove. You looked equally unsure as he about where this story was going. It didn't sound like a friendship-ending situation. I suggested things to make it easier if she was nervous, like she could sleep by herself in my room while I stayed somewhere else. Yeah. And I said we didn't have to sleep at all. We could have kept watching movies till one of our parents woke up. I wouldn't have minded. I know not everyone can do sleepovers, but Jerry wouldn't even tell me what was really wrong or what I could do to help. I thought we could tell each other anything. I guess I was wrong. Did she stay in the end?
No.
We got too loud in the kitchen when my dad woke up. He offered to drive her home when he heard what was wrong. He texted me apologizing for my dad having to do that when he needed to rest, but that was it. She isn't talking to me anymore. You could hear every bit of the tears and heartbreak in Miranda's voice. This continued to be a shock for your neighbor, but Cove recovered and spoke gently. I'm really sorry.
I mean...
There's no way Terry wanted to make you feel this bad, or that she's just done with your friendship because of this. Miranda sniffed and continued. You hope she had plenty of tissues handy. It's really weird that she reacted like that. You couldn't wrap your mind around it. It seemed so unlike Terry, and maybe that's why it was bothering Miranda so much. Miranda's voice sounded a little bit more collected after finishing her story, but you knew that the crying was far from being done. I thought she'd have reached out to one of you by now. Maybe she stopped talking to anyone. Yeah. Sorry for bothering you and Cove about this. You're not bothering us.
Right.
You can tell us things. Thank you. Her shaking voice finally conveyed a little optimism, or at least relief that she wasn't dealing with it entirely on her own.
Is that alright?
If you do hear from her or anything, could you let me know if she's alright? We can. Thanks. Let's talk later, okay? Bye. 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 That didn't really seem like an especially productive point to end the call, though you also weren't sure where to go from there. Looking at Cove, his face seemed as soft as yours. If an alternative, you hung up and put your phone back on your bed. Cove crossed his arms, a frown creasing his face. He He began to pace the length of the room, clearly trying to put the pieces together in his head in a way that made sense. You weren't sure how to react. It was all too sudden and unclear. The empty state of your head before learning this was not helping you now. You couldn't put two thoughts together, and flopping back on your bed, you stared into space. You should probably try calling Terry. Cole's voice managed to drag you back to some grounding. He stopped pacing, but you still saw a perturbed look on his face. Is there really something we should get involved with right now? Cole's mouth pressed into a hard line. At the moment, it seemed like the two of you were on very different wavelengths as to how to deal with this.
Come on.
I want to talk to Terry. She's my friend too. Fine, then let's call her. Cove looked away and pulled his phone out. He went over and stood at his side as he was dialing. Cove let it ring and ring and ring and ring. Terry didn't answer. There wasn't even an option to leave a voice message. His shoulders slumped, and Cove looked even more troubled, if that was possible. He turned to you as if for some lifeline. Could you try calling? I'm gonna send a text just like, hey, I was trying to reach you, call me, or something. Yeah. You took up your phone once more. Unfortunately, after another set of minimal rings, the line went dead. No answer. No voicemail. Hanging up, you saw Cove busily deflate. He rubbed his arm, eyes distant, openly struggling with the whole affair. I don't like this at all. You're fighting, we barely know anything, and we're supposed to just wait and see? Despite it only being a minute since he texted Terry, Cove checked his phone again. He was desperate for progress, for something, and you frowned as you watched him. You need to try to relax. Cove stared hard at the screen as though he was trying to will a new message to appear. As your words sank in, his gaze slid over towards you. Just a little bit? Come on, you're working yourself up. Closing his eyes, he took a deep breath and released it slowly. It wasn't much, but you could see him ease up slightly. Yeah, you're probably right. Cove was still gripping his phone with both hands as though it might fly away if you let go. He looked to you with almost painful earnestness.
Well...
Should we... What do we do? What do we even say if we do hear from one of them? His pacing resumed as he attempted to answer his own question. It was written all over his face they had no idea how to tackle any of this. He slowly came to another halt, like a year winding down. He didn't say anything. Cove lowered his gaze. He realized then just how much he had been counting on you to come up with a reply. His back was rigid as stone. That heaviness weighed on you, dragging your heart down with it. Is something wrong? In just those few words that proved tougher than you imagined, and for a moment you worried he might not have even heard you. A slight turn of his head proved otherwise, though his own response was hardly better.
Fine.
Obviously that was a lie, but you couldn't really think of what to say. The lump that made your words so hard to get out was only growing. For several minutes you both remained there in silence, drowning in your thoughts. Eventually Cove turned around. I'm gonna text Terry that we already know what's going on. Maybe she'll have an easier time talking to us because she won't have to pretend or explain. Why are you so fixated on this? You can see Cove tighten the grip on his phone out of the corner of your eye. You wonder if he was even aware of it. Maybe not, with the way he was glaring at you. I don't want my friends to stop being friends. You both stood there staring at each other for several beats. You nodded reassuringly, not wanting to argue the point anymore. Cove took the lack of a clear objection as acceptance of his plan and went forward. Cove's fingers worked fiercely yet carefully. He was giving his full attention to his words. He sidled up next to him and looked, trying to watch what he was writing. Cove rapidly typed out, "Hey, Jamie and I really want to talk to you. Miranda told us what happened. Please reply back." And sent. It was done. We'll just have to see what happens now. I wish you weren't so concerned with everyone else's feelings but mine. Cove's whole demeanor changed. He stared at you, dumbstruck. What? I'm worried too, and you don't care. At all. Finally it seemed to dawn on him what his words had been doing to you. All the anger and frustration crumbled away, leaving a look of contrition in his place. Contrition? He put his phone away. He made an effort to smile, but he was meager and did nothing to conceal the sadness in his eyes.
I'm sorry.
I'm really sorry, Jamie. I never know what to do with this kind of thing. Maybe we should just forget about it. Finally. The word tumbled out of your mouth, and for a moment you were worried you would set things off again with Cove. He rolled his eyes but didn't say anything more about it. The silence stretched on in what felt like hours, but it likely wasn't that long before there was a knock on your bedroom door, and Mom peeked in. Just wanted to check in on you. Oh, Cove, when did you get here? When she saw your morose expression, she opened the door all the way and the question was dropped. Mom was standing there as well. She slipped past her wife to come inside your space.
Everything okay?
What with the long faces? Are you okay? You tried to nod, but it was no use. Your voice cracked, despite your best effort to not let it get to you more. You couldn't even lift your eyes off the floor, as though the weight of your worry was dragging your head down. Miranda and Terry had a big fight, and none of us can get a hold of Terry. Your parents exchanged a meaningful look, though its meaning was lost on you.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry to hear there's trouble with your friend, sweetie. Is there anything we can do to help? Out of the corner of your eye, you saw Cove rub his arm awkwardly, unable to add anything. No, we were just waiting to see if Terry calls, or texts, or if Miranda does. Well, we can at least help you take your mind off things while you're waiting.
Yeah.
Not a great idea, Lonnie. We can get the whole gang together for some quality time. Yes, it'll be wonderful. We'll go see what Liz is up to right now. Excited, she fluttered a few steps away, then stopped. She pivoted on her heels and raised a single finger, flashing a big smile at Cove.
It's no trouble.
And of course Cliff will be welcome too. Knowing your family was always there for you, that couldn't be underestimated. In fact, it meant everything to you that your mom cared so much. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. That's nice of you.
You're welcome.
You're both very welcome. Don't sweat it, not so kiddos. He thinks to us. Just relax and we'll call you when it's all together. You nodded and your mom dispersed for now, springing into action for their impromptu get-together. You flopped down on your bed, feeling like you could sink into it and disappear. Cove meanwhile took a spot in the chair off to the side. You sat at the same time, and Cove's mouth pulled into a bent smile at that. He gave his phone another quick check and his eyebrows furrowed. Still nothing? Yeah. This is crap, huh? Yep. Cove chewed the inside of his cheek, as if to mimic the stress that was clearly eating away at him. Cove, what's wrong? What's really wrong? One disagreement doesn't make you act like this. Like a pointed pause in his movement. Cove was carefully trying to put his thoughts together. He spoke in a fragile voice. When people you care about, when they're unhappy with each other, there's nothing you can do. At least when you're in a fight yourself, you have some responsibility, some control over it all. I wish it didn't have to happen, but that isn't possible. So, oh well, I guess. His attempt at giving a nonchalant shrug after that was pitiable. It's whatever. Other people can do what they want, right? There was an edge to your tone you couldn't quite help as the string of it all stretched you out again. Your fists clenched. Your whole body seemed to tense up with them. Cove's eyes fell to the floor. He let out a long sigh, trying to let the frustration ease out of you with it. There's a question you had to ask. Is it because of what happened with your parents? Cove ran a hand through his hair, a strange smile spreading across his lips. For him, this pain struck close to his heart. Just as quickly as it had come, his smile was gone, lost amidst his faraway gaze. Yeah, you got it. It's like my parents. Despite knowing him for so many years, Cove had never spoken of the years before he moved to Sunset Bird, before his parents separated in any detail. He whispered his thoughts distantly, almost unconcerned with whether you could hear him or not. They used to fight all the time. I think they got along when I was a baby. I mean, they had to have wanted to be with each other at some point. But when I was old enough to remember anything, it was already bad. There was always something wrong and I could never help. I just wanted them to be happy. You tried to imagine your mom's breaking up, and the very idea scared you. But Cove had endured that for real. I'm sorry. Jamie.
Don't worry about it.
It's okay. Despite that revelation, Cove gazed reassuringly at you. It's not like that anymore. Things are so different now. I don't even really think about it. Again, the sorrow reasserted itself. When he continued, you could barely hear him. Though I guess it's pretty obvious I hadn't forgotten either. He went over and placed a hand on his shoulder. He stared at you, startled for a moment as you crossed the room to him, but then he relaxed when you gently grabbed his shoulder. At least we have each other through the good and the bad, right, neighbor? Cole's eyes shined as his mouth pulled into a bent smile. You brought a smile to your own face. Yeah. When he finally let go, the two of you took a seat again, but this time side by side on your bed.
Well...
Today was a lot, huh? Yeah, it was. You leaned against him. Resting the side of your head onto his shoulder, you glanced up at his face. Hope watched you affectionately. In that gentle gaze, you finally felt like everything was going to be okay. No matter what happens, we can make it work. His mouth pulled into a bent smile at that. You chuckled, resting your head comfortably back on his shoulder.
Me too.
I think so too. And for a while, you stayed like that. A comfortable quiet fell between you, and the sun fell with it. The warming calm ended when Cove gasped sharply. He spun, half expecting to find him nursing an injury, but instead found him staring straight ahead. What?
Oh my god.
I think my phone just vibrated. You wanna check? Yeah. He patted his pockets, fumbling in his panic, and yanked out the phone out. The force of the action nearly catapulted the device out of his grip entirely, but he caught it just in time. His eyes honed in on the screen. It's Terry! Thank God. She says she's sorry. He looked back to you, eyes wide as his nerves started to fray once more. What should I say? I don't know. Sorry. Cole's intense stare went from you to the small message, his mouth and brow pinched with remorse. He hadn't meant to put his stress onto you. His thumb trembled as it hovered over the screen, and then Cole's phone buzzed further. It's Terry again. She's talking to us. He asked about what Miranda said, but wait. He leaned in, watching the conversation unfold on Cove's screen.
Right.
She's actually gonna call. Cove held his breath as he waited. His circle of friends had always been small, so he managed to avoid the stress of seeing friends fighting. He suspected he was feeling this even more keenly, both because this was so uncommon and the friend was so important to him. His phone rang out. Cove jammed the answer button. He switched the phone into speaker mode, allowing you to participate in the conversation. But despite his immediate reaction, his voice lacked the same resolve when he spoke. Hey. It was tentative, a white flag fluttering in the wind. Jamie is here too. Hi.
Hey.
Hey, buddies. Terry's voice was very recognizable without her usual quick patter and energy.
Are you okay?
Everything's okay. I don't know. Probably not. Cove tensed, his free hand closing to an anxious fist. What happened? Don't you know already? Miranda explained some of it, but it doesn't make sense to us. You heard Terry sigh over the phone as she unburdened herself. Pretty much. I was at Randy's house. We decided to watch some movies she super liked that I'd never seen before. Turns out there's a lot of this. We watched one, then another, and another. We were having so much fun. Each time one finished, she had another one to share with me. I didn't really think about the time. I only wanted to say yes to Randy and watch her movies. She spoke briskly, but her words were full of affection. It was Randy, you know. I wasn't thinking about my schedule or what time it was. Yeah. And I finally saw the time. No, it was way too late. I already knew I couldn't stay. She took a deep breath, her voice becoming softer when she resumed talking. I was so stressed out. I just couldn't deal with it. Miranda wanted to help. She kept coming up with ways to make it better and trying to figure out why I was so upset and stuff. I was trying to answer her questions. There were so many, but I couldn't really answer all of them. I didn't even know why some of her ideas didn't work out with me. With my headache, I still had the first problem and Randy there trying to help, asking all these questions and suggestions at me faster than I could even think. I go audibly, sniffling. I got frustrated and told her to just leave me alone, but then she wanted to talk about why I wanted that, and we started having a fight in the kitchen. It woke Randy's dad up. We told him about how I wanted to go home, but my parents couldn't get me, so Mr. Eckert offered to do it. Oh. I accepted because I definitely couldn't stay then, not after throwing a racket and turning it into a big deal. But I feel awful. and embarrassed. Why would I yell at Randy and hurt her feelings? I made her dad lose sleep by waking him up and having to drive me home. What do you say after that? I have no idea. I don't know where to start. I don't want to make it worse by saying the wrong thing and fighting again. So, I'm not talking. Terry, Randy isn't mad that you didn't want to stay or that you fought. She just wants to feel like you can talk to her. I mean, you can say whatever you want. She'll listen. Not talking to her at all is pretty much the only wrong way to go about it. Terry lamented mournfully on the other side of the line, but he had a point. Unless she faced Miranda again, there would be no resolution. He looked at Cove, punched over the phone, staring pensively into it and searching for a solution. This couldn't be solved with the other key party missing. What if you brought them in? Your phone was still free. You suggested calling up Miranda now. I could call Miranda. You could talk to her with us. Cove brightened up. The concerned furrow in his brow, which had taken root when Miranda first called, eased.
Well,
That can work. Jerry, are you up for it? She made a noise that wasn't a word, but nonetheless conveyed her hesitation and worry. But she brought it to a close with a decisive exhalation, as if pushing all the negative thoughts from her body. Alright, I'll do it. Cove nodded. Now that you received approval from everyone, you pulled out your phone and called Miranda. You set it to speaker and waited for her to pick up. Luckily she did.
Hi.
Hi, Jamie. Her voice was still distant, as if her thoughts were elsewhere, but it was loud enough for your needs. Hi, you're on speaker. Terry's on speaker too, on Cove's phone. Oh. She paused while she digested this information. You watched the phone screen, hoping that she wouldn't hang up as a result.
Really?
Oh, really? Yep, it's really me. Can you hear my voice all the way from your house to theirs and then mine? I can. You and Cove exchanged looks, waiting for the wall between them to break, and wondering who would be the first one to do it. As the quiet dragged on, you caught Cove chewing his cheek. He must have weighed up the same question as you, whether encourage the conversation along or leave Miranda and Terry to resolve it themselves. The answer came in the form of one sniff, followed by another from Cove's phone.
Sorry.
Randy, I hope you still like me. What? You're the one acting as if you didn't like me! Her tone was defensive, no doubt a result of her wounds from last night still being raw.
What?
No way! Everyone likes Randy. You're wonderful. Your eyes met Cove's. His phone was tilted towards you, capturing the call indirectly. You moved your phone closer to his, hoping that the signal was strong enough to convey every nuance of tone. Cove did likewise, bringing himself right next to yours, even bumping against it as shifting his grip. I didn't know what to say. That's the only reason I wouldn't talk to you. If I'd known the answer, I would have told you right away. Miranda murmured on the other end of the line. You didn't want to stay. Anything I tried to do bothered you, and you could have told me you didn't know. Yeah, I think I was angry at myself. I did a dumb thing and didn't want to help with it. I wanted to be bad and just deal with it myself. It made me keep doing dumb things. Oh. When she spoke again, her voice was quiet, as tender and vulnerable as the words.
I'm sorry.
Staying up late watching stuff was all my fault. I had to find a way to fix it. That's what I thought anyway. I should have given you space. I'm sorry for being so pushy and insensitive. Hardly. Miranda agreed having a flaw. I never heard of such a crazy thing. Miranda let out a ghost of a giggle. Hope cleared his throat. Maybe you should call each other now? Sorry.
Sure.
Can do. Thanks for giving me a kick in the butt to do this already. Randy, man, I'm gonna call you right now. Bye, Jamie and Cove! She hung up after squeezing in a quick bye, though not giving you or Cove room to respond in kind. Miranda laughed, and the noise tinkling gently like wind chimes in the summer breeze.
You're really nice.
Thank you for listening and helping. I'm gonna hang up now so I can answer Terry's call. Bye. 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 Miranda hung up, still chuckling softly as her call ended. The room felt empty without the other voices in it. Cove expelled a sigh that crashed through the newly fallen silence. He dropped his arms to his side, letting his head hang down like a puppet at rest. Thank God. Today's events have drained you. Cove scratched at his face, his expression cloudy. I think I need to find better ways for dealing with conflict, because that was awful. I think you did okay given the circumstances. Cove meekly smiled as he rubbed at his eyes, greenness creeping over him, and mumbled his next words. "We can talk about it another day. Conflict resolution methods?"
Huh?
Oh, no, forget it. Your eyebrows rose and a light bulb went off in your head. Before Miranda called you, didn't you say there was something you wanted to say? Cove's original visits had been thrown off so off-kilter that it was a struggle to find your memory back to when you first turned up. Now you did, though. You remembered that he'd been perky when he arrived this afternoon. Was it good news? Cove brushed his hands against his now folded arms shyly. Well, yeah, maybe. I'm not exactly sure it counts as news or even good. It's what it is. I'm happy about it, though. You're never going to be one to push someone else to talk when they seem reticent. It's okay, but it sounds good. Phil chuckled awkwardly, a hand creeping up to ruffle the hair on the back of his head. It's fine. If you want to hear, I can tell you. He shifted on his feet as if a different posture might give him the support he needed for the conversation. I didn't want to make it a big deal, but I kind of... well, not kind of. I just know what my sexuality is now. Oh. A real subject change, huh? He chuckled. It was unexpected, but you were excited that Cove had come to understand himself more. I'm glad he wanted to share that with you. He clapped your hand softly. And? Cove drew a breath, straightening up. I'm demisexual. So, most of the time, I don't really have those kinds of feelings. Physical wants and stuff. It's only in some situations, when I'm already really emotionally and romantically connected to someone, that I start to ever think about anything sexual, and it's only with them. I hadn't heard the term until pretty recently, and it just made a lot of sense once I knew what it meant. I had a word that fit how I felt.
Yeah.
And I'm panromantic, because I never had a preference for a specific gender or anything, so yeah. He nodded as he spoke, completely understanding how he'd come to that conclusion. Cove looked down at the floor. Being so open and direct about a matter that personal, which you were sure he'd spent a long time trying to figure out, seemed to be kind of weird for him. Despite that, there was a small, proud smile on his face, and when he looked up again, his gaze was steadfast. All this talk of co-sexuality made you reflect about your own. You didn't really have a physical interest in other people. There was only one person you ever had romantic feelings for. Specifically when it came to how you felt towards men. You found them attractive, you thought you'd be happy to be with a guy someday. And then you felt towards women. You found them attractive, but you hadn't thought about being with a girl. Yeah, for towards NBs. You found them attractive, you thought you'd be happy to be with someone non-binary someday. You hadn't told Cove anything about your sexuality. You didn't want to talk about it. You didn't doubt that Cove would be understanding and supportive of however you felt, but you simply didn't want to try talking about it. So you allowed the moment to pass and waited for the conversation to move on. You could tell that Cove felt like it had been an emotionally draining day, that had now come to a close. Everything wrapped up neatly with a bow on top. You had some good talks with your friends and with each other. A lot had been brought to the light, and you came out of it not only knowing each other better, but yourself too. But there was still something that Cove didn't know. Something that gnawed at you many times over the years. You never told Cove about how you first met his dad. You'd always held it back from him, unsure of how he would take the revelation. His dad seemed to have done the same, as Cove didn't seem to have heard it from Mr. Holden either. You decided that the secret had hung over you long enough for telling him. It was time to tell Cove about the deal that his father proposed. You were ready. Today was the day to tell Cove this full story of how you come to know him. Cove. You hooked his attention with the way you spoke his name. There's one more thing I'd like to talk about. Cove raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. He was listening. You tried to handle it lightheartedly. You weren't the first Holden family member I met. Your dad gets that honor. You had run off and couldn't be found, remember? He was hanging to see if you'd come back. That's when he spotted me on my way home from playing around outside. Cove nodded, eyebrows still raised. You could tell that he was trying to predict where this was going. You could also see that he was failing. Well, he thought he needed a friend, but there weren't a lot of options in the neighborhood, so he tried to help things along and offered me $20 to do it. Cove's eyes widened to huge circles as he uttered the final sentence. His mouth hung open, ready to speak, but no words followed. He stood still, giving him time to process the revelation. He watched the layers of subterfuge being ripped away as his eyebrows rose higher on his forehead, followed by a deepening frown. And then Cove burst into a roar of laughter. That's horrible. He tried to bribe you? And you're what, 8? Dad, why? Oh my god. Cove was bent over with laughter, one arm supporting his sides. He covered his eyes with the other hand, hiding the tears of mirth spouting in the corners. He cracked a smile, relieved that he found the secret was bringing him so much amusement. Eventually, your giggles found down. Cove wiped the last of his tears from his eyes, still grinning as he took wheezing breaths. Wow. He shook his head. That's my dad. I guess there's always another Clifford surprise waiting in the wings. But $20, huh? What a cheapskate. Seeing how much time we spent together since I moved in, you're paid pennies on the hour. No, not even that much. Just 1 penny an hour. A fraction of a penny. I didn't take the money from a stranger I just met, so it was even less than a fraction of a penny. Cove gave you a lopsided smile with a shake of his head.
Sorry.
You definitely got the short end of the stick. Don't you worry. Just a labor of love. You watch your words reach Cove. His expression melted while he flushed and ducked his head away from you, his new smile human and genuine. The choice of phrasing had been a bullseye, shot straight with Cupid's bow.
That's...
Oh. He shuffled his feet, resting his weight on one leg and then the other as he attempted to find words of his own. Thank you. He smiled back at him, thinking that no payment of hard cash could ever compare to his presence. You breathed a satisfied sigh of relief as the weight you've been carrying from childhood was lifted from your shoulders. Cove shyly ran a hand up and down his arm, a gentle smile lifting his features, and he knew he was glad to be where he was today. Thanks for telling me. You're welcome.
Hey!
We should probably head downstairs soon, if your moms are still away and wanting everyone to get together. Oh, yeah, that's right. With a renewed spring in your step, you led the way out of your room. You got downstairs to find the others already assembled and waiting.
Hi.
Hello. Hey! Good to see you, Bo.
Hey!
Here we were, trying to corral everyone to a group, but the two of you were already upstairs this whole time. Of course you were together. You paid Jamie to stick with me, or did you forget? The statement was meaningless to your family, who looked to each other for answers in vain. Mr. Holden, who got the message loud and clear, seemed embarrassed. He chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of his neck, and then his hand froze in place.
Huh?
Wait, when did you figure that out? You never mentioned it growing up. Today, just now, Jamie told me. Mr. Holden's hand awkwardly slid off his neck as he stared at Cove, answered catching him off guard. Out of the corner of your eye, you saw Mom mouthing questions at you. Everyone was waiting for an explanation. Similarly to his son, Mr. Holden broke into laughter and turned to address you, a hand laid over his chest. I can't believe my partner in crime betrayed me. After all these years, I thought we had something. His voice was deliberately light, assuring you this is only a joke. He shook his head, throwing off the jest as he spoke seriously.
No worries.
I have to admit, I'm actually just amazed that you kept it on your hat this long. It had to be done. I want to know why my dad kept it secret all this time. Mr. Holden looked back to Cove, lines forming on his forehead as his wide eyes signaled a wordless apology. Can we hear exactly what this secret is? The suspense is killing us.
Right.
Alright. I better get everyone up to speed. He held his hands, palms out, pacifying his audience, or perhaps holding them up as a shield in advance. The first day I met Jamie, I'd been worrying about Cove being alone for the summer.
Well...
There weren't a lot of kids around, and he wasn't exactly on the best terms with me at the time. You glanced around at your family, gauging their responses. I felt like this was my one shot, so I kind of offered her $20 to be friends with Cove, and added that she couldn't tell him about it. This gasp. Mom was staring incredulously at Mr. Holden while Mom's eyebrows had retreated to her hairline. You and Cove, already knowing the story, were the only ones unaffected. But after a while, I really did honestly forget it even happened. He raised his hands higher, now level with his shoulders. Not a bad idea, you thought. If Mom felt inclined to throw a cushion at him, he'd probably manage to block it in time. I know that's bad, but I've had so many grand ideas over the years, it's hard to keep track of them all. Cove smiled, placing his hands on his hips and shaking his head at his father's antics.
Seriously?
I can't believe you. Though also I totally can. Your moms were less indulgent. The shock had ebbed away to displeasure. Mom's foot was tapping rapidly as she frowned at the next door neighbor, while her arms crossed over her chest and her lips pursed. I'm sorry, Jamie. I'm sorry to your parents too. That was way out of bounds. Don't worry about it. Everything worked out. Your moms gave each other that look, when they seemed to communicate with eyes alone. Alright, well, that's that then. And it won't happen again.
Absolutely.
It definitely won't.
Alright.
Good. It was a little surprising that they were letting him off the hook. But on the other hand, it was a long time ago now, and you were sure your moms remembered those painful early days of Cove's arrival too. Mr. Holden wasn't a potential bad influence anymore, so lecture would be pretty moot. Instead, your mom gave him a lenient smile.
In that case,
Now that it's settled, why don't you find something to do? Nods of agreement cascaded through the group in a couple of ways to the suggestion. Mr. Holden's shoulders slumped with a release of tension. He brought his hands down, tucking them away into his pockets. The two families spent the rest of the afternoon together, chatting and catching up. Though he accepted Mr. Holden's apology, Cove caught up for lost time by pitching the odd jab at his dad. Your moms didn't seem amused. The news was still too fresh, but he enjoyed finally being able to laugh about it freely. He truly relaxed, knowing that there were no longer any secrets between the two families. He felt freed, and yet simultaneously more tied together than he had been before. You know, I think we should do one more moment, just to get things up to speed. And we'll go on a drive. Like a lazy cat, you stretched your arms above your head and yawned, winking your eyes sleepily. The day was warm and pleasant, and you were lounging on the couch in the living room, finding it difficult to do much at the moment. Your moms and Liz had gone out shopping, looking for some new items for your sister to take back and decorate her college dorm with. They asked if you wanted to go with them, but you declined. For you, today was all about relaxation. Cove had tried to spend some time with you, content to join in with doing nothing. The two of you had been chatting idly as you lazed around, talking about the other things you had planned for the summer. You were stretched out across him as he sat on the couch. You had your feet propped up on one armrest and used Cove as a comfy cushion beneath your head, slowly settled in. Cove was tense, his legs almost as stiff as two logs. Everything's not as comfortable as you had hoped for. The day dragged on, and you found yourself yawning more and more often between conversations. You had almost dozed off completely when suddenly a buzz rang out, disturbing the silence. Your phone was on its charger in the kitchen, so it couldn't have been that. Cole put on his own phone from his back pocket and checked the screen. This movement had jostled you, so you tried to readjust your position to get it right again.
Oh,
It's my mom. Cole waved his phone in the air, giving you a small smile. I'm gonna take this. I'll be right back. He carefully nudged you to move. Okay. He shifted, giving you room to get up. He got to his feet and stretched out, answering the call and holding the phone to his ear as he headed off. Hey Mom, what's up? You waved him goodbye. He turned to give you a wave in return, smiling as he walked backwards towards the door. The lock clicked behind him as he exited the house, and you sank back onto the cushions, idly trying to decide what to do next. After electing to grab your own phone from his charger, you resumed your position on the couch, tapping away at the screen. Your mind drifted away from thoughts of Cove and his phone call with all the many ways your device could distract you. It was an effective enough way to kill the time, and you managed to do various little things when the door opened again and Cove returned.
hey.
I'm back. You watched as Cove strolled over to where you were still sitting. How'd the call go?
That's...
Oh, well... He sighed dramatically and let his forehead fall against the couch back. I know I just came back from visiting my mom, but... Well, last time I flew there, every time I just fly there and back, and so... There's a lot of stuff I've left over there because I couldn't take it all with me on the plane. Now that I'm not going to be visiting her like I used to, I'll have to go get it at some point. He gave you a look that you thought seemed almost guilty. Some of it is pretty big, so it's not really practical to have it shipped. I can drive over and pick it up. When will you go? That's what my mom wanted to know. She thought it'd be best to do it soon before things get even busier. He paused and let off a soft sigh, his shoulders dropping, as if he really didn't want to be the one to have to tell you that. I think that's probably the idea that makes the most sense too. It'd be good to get over and done with. I'll be sending out as soon as I can. Oh, another trip already then. He sighed and dropped his head again. You could tell he wasn't any happier about having to go, than you were about seeing him leave. That's fine. It wasn't the best news. If it had to be done, then it had to be done. Looking up again, you met his bright, aquamarine eyes, having a sad smile tugging at his lips.
Oh,
Suddenly his eyebrows jumped, and his eyes lit up like a lamp. You could come with me. What? You should come. My visits to my mom's are usually special, so she and I can spend time together. But this time it's not like that. It's an errand. My plan is to drive out one morning and spend the night, and then we can pack up the car the next morning and turn right back around. It'll only take 2 days for the whole thing. You thought to yourself for a moment, amused by Cove's excitement. Are you sure it'd be okay if I go?
I mean,
Yeah, why not? Aron could use the company. It's a pretty long drive for one person. A sprinkling of color spread over his cheeks as he admitted quietly. And I'd just really like to have you around. Plus, you'd have a chance to see my mom in person. I know she'd be happy to see you again. You wrinkled your nose, supposing that it'd be alright, after all, if he was so sure about it. Alright, I can come. I'll have to let my moms know, but as long as we've got nothing else important on the days we pick, then there's no reason I wouldn't be able to go. Cole's face brightened, and you were sure the prospect of having a travel buddy made the task seem less tiresome. I'll call my mom back and tell her. We can pick a time right now. You spent some time together going over your schedules and making plans for when you could take the trip. You needed to fit in around both your work schedules, which took a bit of doing, but came together in the end. Luckily, it was only a 2-day trip, so finding a couple free days in a row wasn't impossible. It wasn't long before the dates were finally set, and all the plans were made. You were excited for the trip. A short trip sounded like the perfect way to spend some time. You could listen to music, eat snacks, enjoy the open road. No matter what you thought about things, the morning where you were due to leave arrived. It was cooler than usual, the sun barely peeking over the tops of the houses. You stood outside your house, on the footpath near the road, waiting for Cove. You were feeling refreshed after a good night's sleep and an early wake-up. With your travel bag clutched in one hand, you watched as Cove finished packing up his car. He had organized all sorts of things, water bottles, snacks, and who knows what else. Cove insisted he had everything under control and didn't need help. At least he could rest easy, knowing that it was all taken care of. As he waited, you glanced over Cove's car. You knew it well. He used to belong to Mr. Holden, and when Cove had learned to drive, it passed to him. His dad had taken the opportunity to get a newer one. He was pretty old at this point, but had served both of them well so far. He just hoped he had enough life in it left to survive a trip as long as the one you were embarking on. The sound of the door closing made you jump. You snapped back to focus and saw Cove was walking towards you. He dusted his hands off on his pants and tilted his head towards the car. That's it. Ready to go? Yeah, I'm ready. He smiled and stepped aside, giving you space to situate your own bag where you wanted it. Once everything was safely inside, he glanced back at you.
alright.
We should get started. It's gonna be a ways to go. He smiled back with a nod. The two of you climbed into the car and buckled up. Cove in the driver's seat and you sitting shotgun. His eyes moved to you.
Thank you.
Thanks again for coming on this trip with me. You're welcome. After checking the mirrors and starting the engine, you pulled out of the driveway, and the trip began. With a small sigh, you got cozy in your seat and watched the familiar houses in your neighborhood pass by. Cove reached over to turn on the radio. The crackle static mixed with the odd snippets of song filled the car as he flipped through the stations. Mr. Holden's car was in good condition, but it was, well, older. There was no way to plug in a phone to play music, so the radio had to do. Eventually, he settled on a classic rock station before sitting back and resting both hands on the wheel. Is this okay? I'd rather have it off. Oh, okay. Cove flipped off the radio, leaving you with nothing but the sounds of the engine filling the car. Time flew by, and the scenery outside your window became more and more unfamiliar. It was a little fluttery, being alone in the car with Cove for so long. There's nowhere else he would have rather been. Every now and then you look over and take a glance at him, wondering what he was thinking about. There Eventually, Cove broke the silence, clearing his throat softly before he spoke. It's been too long since you and I have spent time with my mom. I know she still comes to the neighborhood sometimes, but it's not even once a year. I'm always going to hers. I'm happy the two of us are doing this. Yeah, me too. Your elbow resting on the windowsill, you gazed out at the world that was slowly coming to life as the morning rolled on by. The sun climbed higher in the sky. Luckily, the sunbeams weren't going right in your eyes. Hey, do you mind reaching back for me? Cove gave you a sidelong glance as he drove, indicating with a nod of his head and a tiny smile. I want some chips, the salt and vinegar ones. I don't know how you can eat that. He huffed impatiently, keeping his eyes on the road. I like them and want to eat them. You shouldn't have a problem with letting me since you don't even like it. Stretching out the seatbelt to give yourself space, you twisted in your spot and reached into the bag holding the snacks. It took a bit of effort to sort through the collection of goodies stuffed inside. Eventually, the bag of chips crinkled beneath your fingers as you pulled them out and sat back in your seat. Here. Thanks. Do you mind opening it? His eyes lit up at the prospect of the snacks, and you shook your head in amusement, popping the top of the bag. You poured a few chips into his hand. Cove had out one outstretched hand while trying to resist the urge to look at what he was getting. You did your best to have the chips fall into his palm, but some did end up on the floor. Thanks. After that, you rolled up the top of the bag and stowed the chips safely in the back again. When you turned to the front, you saw find Cove crushing the fistful of chips into his mouth, crunching loudly. He wiped his hand on his pants absentmindedly before gripping the wheel and spilling crumbs all over the place. I'm impressed. Cove mumbled through his mouthful of chips, giving you a brief thumbs up. You smiled back, shaking your head in amusement at his antics. The hours drifted by much the same way as that, with the two of you snacking and chatting as the day stretched on. It was fairly calm and quiet, traveling along the open road, and you found little in the way of interruptions. At one point you passed a Welcome to Nevada sign, and Cove gave a tiny cheer. He was in disbelief that the two of you were seriously all the way in another state like this. Eventually you had to stop for gas and made a detour at a small diner to grab a proper meal that didn't consist of chips and candy. After refueling both the car and your stomachs, the drive was back on, just as the sun began dipping beneath the horizon and bathing the sky in a wash of orange light. Cove informed you that there isn't too much longer left to go. You're almost there. You helped Cove stay alert while he drove. He appreciated it, and you managed to journey together. When night eventually fell in the blanket of darkness, the drive finally came to an end. Cove pulled into the parking lot of Kyra's apartment building, the glow of the car lights disappearing as he turned off the engine and let out a heavy sigh.
Huh.
We made it. We're here. The two of you exchanged tired smiles, having successfully and safely completed one half of the trip. You're relieved to have actually arrived and eager to get out of the car and stretch your legs. You took the stairs up to the building together. After a knock, you were abruptly met by a flash of dark green hair as Kyra opened the door and immediately took her son in her arms.
Cove!
There he is, my gigantic baby boy. You squeezed him for a moment and then pulled back so she could examine his face. You're even taller than the last time I saw you. Cove gave you a look and rolled his eyes amusedly as she patted the tops of his shoulder proudly. You say that every time I'm here. It doesn't even make sense right now. My last visit wasn't that long ago. Kyra simply laughed before letting him go fully and ushering the two of you into her apartment. Then she turned to you, a wide grin pulling out her lips. Jamie, so nice you came along with. And as a bonus, you both arrived in one piece. It's nice to see you. Kyra beamed at you both, and while you would have loved nothing more than to settle down and rest after the drive, you could see she wasn't going to let you go that easily.
So?
How's the trip? I meant I was just a pinch worried. You let Cove answer that. It was fine, no problems for us. Kyra clapped her hands together, the bracelets around her wrist jingling. I'm so proud. I can hardly believe how mature you both are. Where'd all those smarts come from? Cove ran a hand over his hair with an awkward chuckle.
I don't know.
Maybe I got some from my parents. His mom looked up at him deeply, her eyes glistening as she shook the sentimentality off with a wave of her hand.
Any whoosies?
You're gonna be half asleep already, huh? I don't want to keep you out much longer. Early morning with any whoosies. I don't want to deal with the sleeping arrangements. I've only got my own room in Cove's. The living room couch is in that bed. You keep your bed, Mom. Jamie can use mine and I'll sleep on the couch. Or the floor. Whatever's easiest. It doesn't matter for one night. Mm-hmm. Kara gave him a skeptical look, her lips bended a teasing grin. What? Don't care why I don't believe you'll stay on the floor when Jamie is right there in your bed. Cove froze in shock, his cheeks drained a dark beet red. Then his eyes narrowed, and he scolded her with a harsh whisper. Oh. Kara giggled to herself, but managed to give him a apologetic look upon seeing he was less than impressed by her teasing. Sorry, baby. I'm only pointing out the obvious. He blushed. Was it really necessary to talk about this? Thank you for letting me have the bed. Cove offered a small smile.
Don't worry about it.
No problem.
So...
Would you be okay with me sleeping on the floor in the room? I'd rather be there than down the open living room, even if there is the couch. I'd prefer if you were on the couch. She nodded tentatively, pleased with the decision, even though Cove was not.
It's alright.
I know it's not what you prefer, Cove, but it's probably for the best. I'm sorry I don't have an air mattress or anything. It's not a big deal. Cove brushed it all off with a wave of his hand, giving you an understanding smile. Kara clasped her hands together, her bracelets softly tinkling against each other again. It's only getting later, so I better let you prepare for bed. She nodded towards the hallway and gave you a small smile. I'll be hostess for a second, show you where the bathroom is first, Jamie. And where you'll be staying tonight. Thank you. You hoisted your travel bag and back over your shoulder and followed behind Karen down the hallway. Good night, Cove.
Night.
He twisted backwards to give Cove a wave, which he returned. Then he caught up with his mom, who continued to show you around her place. The room was small, but nicely decorated in soft, cool colors, with plenty of artwork hanging on the walls to give a character. It was stylish, and exactly what you would expect from someone like Kyra. After being shown the bathroom and wishing Kyra good night, you headed to the room alone. Looking around, you found the bedroom looked much the same as the rest of the apartment. With its small ocean elements, you were sure Cove must have enjoyed while he stayed here. All in all, the room was pretty and clean, though it almost looked more like a hotel guest room than a bedroom. Cove only spent a few weeks out of the year there, so it made sense that it wasn't especially lived in. With the night getting late, you rifled through your travel bag to find pajamas, getting changed, and ready to crawl into bed. The lights were flipped, but when you huddled beneath the covers, a soft glow from outside peeked through the blinds, casting shadows over the floor. You were quite comfortable. The bed was warm and snug, and you were tired enough that you were sure you would soon be drifting off to sleep. The sounds of the city outside were different to the crashing waves you usually listen to at home. That only made the place all the more interesting. You were trying your hardest to fall asleep when your phone buzzed on the nightstand, vibrating against the wood. Cracking one eye open, you could clearly see the fluorescent screen lighting up the dark room. You reached over to pick it up, swinging against the brightness. It didn't take more than a second or two for you to realize it was Cove, and you quickly scanned his message. Hey, I was wondering what you think of my room. I'm set up on the couch out here. You shook your head at his antics. You knew well enough that you should both be getting some rest, and still he was being a troublemaker. You left the message unread and put your phone away. It was time to get some sleep, not play around on text all night. You just settled back in bed, attempting to tune out when your phone went off again. To help, you grabbed it from the nightstand and read the new message from Cove. Sorry, I'll go to bed. Good, you thought to yourself. Even if you hadn't sent a message through the phone, you still got the one you were putting out. Officially setting your phone down for the last time that day, you curled up and settled in for the night. With a satisfied hump, your eyes grew heavy and drifted off to sleep. The next day dawned, bringing with it the sounds of birds chirping happily outside the window. You opened your eyes slowly, letting them adjust to the light as you tried to recall where you were, and remembering the unfamiliar sight of Cove's second bedroom. You had woken up on your own. The early morning sun filtered through the blinds, telling you it was about time to get out of bed and start getting ready for the day. There was a knock on the door, and when it opened, a familiar head of green hair peeked through the gap. Unsurprisingly, it was Cove. You guessed he'd come to check in on you or start packing. Morning. Cove seemed pretty lively for so early in the morning, but that didn't surprise you. He had always been a morning person. Sitting up in bed, you let out a yawn and stretched your arms above your head. You still felt pretty groggy. You were used to sleeping in longer than this, and the late night hadn't helped. Morning. Two of you are in completely different wavelengths right now. You pulled yourself out of bed, grabbing a fresh change of clothes and your toiletries before heading to the bathroom. After all that, you met Cove back in his room. He was sitting on the floor when you entered, sorting through a bunch of stuff in the box, determining what to bring and what to leave behind. Hey.
Hey,
Can you pull out the stuff in those drawers? He nodded, though he hadn't even looked up from his task, so you knew he wouldn't have seen. Headed over to his drawers, he started the task of taking out various items and setting them on the ground in front of Cove. Oh hey, look at this. When he turned towards the sound of Cove's voice, he found him digging through one of the drawers beneath the bed.
neat.
Here's something I definitely need to bring. Neat. Turning your head, you got a better glimpse of what he was holding. An old yellowing book. When he opened it up, there were a few dried pressed flowers between the pages. Those had been gifts you'd given him for his mom's place, something for him to remember you by and to make his time here less lonely. He got them the whole time. It's adorable that you care so much for them. He sighed, glancing between you and the items in his hands. They bring back some good memories. A faint blush of color crept over his cheeks, and he looked away quickly.
It's nice.
These are special. It was important, having a piece of you with me when we were apart. I feel the same way. That's why I gave them to you. Cove smiled, pleased that the feeling was mutual, but then the expression became more amused. And did you keep the souvenirs I brought back? Nope, he said jokingly. He shook his head with a grin. Thanks. Another hour passed by in silence, and you were happy to see you were making great progress with Cove's room. The linen closet left to sort through. You took a minute to take a mouthful of water from your bottle and perched on the ledge of the bed, being productive. Cove glanced over at you and paused, putting down the tape gun he had been using to seal up his boxes. You raised an eyebrow. You know, it's really strange to see you sitting in this room. Why? He frowned a little, his eyes distant and his voice quiet when he spoke next.
That's...
During the visits to Mom's, when I was sitting alone in this room, I'd sometimes think about how you weren't there. It was a weird feeling at the time, that you just weren't around, and now that you're here in this exact place, it's... I don't know how to explain the feeling. He shrugged it off and smiled a little, as though he'd said enough already and didn't want to risk it sounding silly. Life is pretty confusing, is all. He smiled at him. He grinned slightly back, nodding his head a little. He looked away satisfied, heading over to the closet, and the last of the items to be sorted. Before long, every box, closet, and drawer had been thoroughly combed through, with items either neatly packed up in boxes or organized and returned to their proper place. With a sigh of relief, you glanced around the bedroom and the work you had done together.
Alright.
We're done. Good job to us. I'm gonna change out of my PJs for the drive. Yeah. When the two of you headed down to the living room, ready to get everything finalized at the road, you found Kyra in the kitchen pouring a cup of tea. Cove headed towards her, leaning casually against the counter that divided the two spaces. Hey, you didn't have to get up so early.
Come on.
Are you crazy? Of course I have to see you off before you go. You can't sneak away when I'm out cold. She beamed at him, and in all honesty, she seemed more than happy to be up and getting ready for the day. You want some breakfast? I got some muesli or eggs and toast. Oh, and some of that fruity cereal you used to love. That's okay, we should really get on the road. Kyra smiled sadly, a little disappointed, but she seemed to understand that your time was running thin. I thought you might say that. In that case, I packed you some snacks for the road.
What do you think?
And if you don't end up eating them, take it anyway just in case. You can always feed them the cliff when you get home, and tell him I said hi. Cove laughed and shook his head, knowing his dad would love nothing more than to polish up whatever food Kyra had prepared for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mom. You really didn't have to. He smiled quietly at her. It was really nice of her to be so thoughtful. She returned your smile with one of her own before putting her cup of tea aside. Well, I'll help you get the car packed.
Sure.
Thanks. The three of you gotta move on. taking the boxes from Cove's bedroom and heading down to fill the back seat of the car, until there was barely an inch of space left in the back and trunk. With all of you helping, it only took a couple trips to move everything, and you were done before you knew it. Then there was truly time to say goodbye. You convened back inside the apartment, where Kyra looked over the two of you with a quiet smile. It was great seeing you both. Thank you for coming. She gave each of you a hug, and you felt a little sad that you hadn't been able to spend more time with her. It's good to see you too, Mom. Cove embraced her in return, two of them holding onto each other for a few seconds longer. I'll miss you. We'll visit again soon.
Of course.
You better. Hey, we should make plans for you to visit us too. I'll let you know when it's settled. I'd love that. Carol bundled all the stuff she prepared into a bag and handed them over to you. You took a quick peek at what she packed. There's fruit, nuts, seeds, hard-boiled eggs, and some veggie sticks.
Cool.
Oh, good to see you got some fresh food options now. Besides that, you brought one. Kara shook her head at him and let off a soft laugh, as though she wouldn't have expected anything else. I seriously hope you're feeding yourself better than that at home. Yeah, of course, just not on trips. You can live with that then. She looked over him fondly, her eyes at last focusing on his face and filling with emotion. I'm going to miss you, baby.
Me too.
And thank you for letting us come. No problem at all. You're welcome anytime. Carrie put an arm around you both, pulling you in tight to your sides for one final squeeze.
Bye.
Have a safe trip. You will. With the last goodbye, you exited the apartment, though Cove hesitated for a moment in the door, his expression distant. You weren't sure what he was doing, so you tentatively took a step towards him. Everything okay? Your voice seemed to bring him back to earth, and he shook his head to clear his thoughts, his green hair swaying from side to side.
Come on.
Yeah, let's go. With that, the two of you headed back down to the car, ready to make the long trip home. Soon enough, you were on the wide open road where the car for Cove stings, and only one destination: Sunset Bird, California. The drive went as smoothly as could be expected, the morning slowly creeping to midday as the miles flew by. The day flew by in a whir of open road and sunshine, and before you knew it, it was early afternoon. By that point, you had already crossed the state line. Cove announced that he planned a little stop on the way home. He was quite pleased with himself as he arrived at the precipice, the Redwood National Park. Shaded beneath a canopy of enormous redwood trees, he drove along. When Cove parked the car, you pushed the door to get out, and the first thing you did was look up. Enormous redwood trees surrounded you on all sides, their massive trunks shooting straight up into a canopy of foliage overhead. There were too many of them to count, stretching on and on as far as you could see. You squinted against the sunlight that was peeking through the leaves and dancing on the paths around you. It's great, right? He smiled at you from over the roof of the car before glancing around the place fondly. Remember the trip our families took here that one summer? It was cool going on a journey and seeing the forest in person, even if we didn't stay very long.
So...
And I guess we can stay for even less this time, but oh well. It just seemed like a good time to stop by. Who knows when we'll get another chance. His voice got a little softer at the end. It seemed to be bittersweet for him, being in a place he was so fond of, but not having time to appreciate it fully. You're pleased to have stopped here. It's a beautiful place to stretch your legs and take in some fresh air. Hang on, my game's freezing up a little bit. Come on, don't crash. I'll play up with you for the trees. Cove laughed, dragging his gaze away from the trees for long enough to smile at you cheekily. Oh, it must be so terrible for you. The two of you walked around for a while, completely dwarfed by the sheer scale of the redwoods. You kind of put your view of yourself and everything in strange perspective. You took in a lungful of clean forest air, listening to the sounds of birdsong, and a cool breeze rustling through the underbrush, taking advantage of the space to move around freely. However you felt about being there, it was a totally different scene than sitting in that old car for hours and hours. You felt more comfortable keeping your distance from Cove. He didn't seem to mind, content to enjoy the sights of nature. Being here again, you couldn't help but reminisce on what else had happened during the trip you had taken here all that time ago. There were a lot of things that reminded of it recently. You looked over at Cove, who seemed to be lost in peace at the place, and you wondered if any of it crossed his mind. Smiling at the sight, you thought back of in the highlight of the long-gone vacation. Elizabeth teased us mercilessly on that trip, remember? Liz really pulled no punches when she was a teen. I can hardly believe some of the things she said to us. Cove groaned, and though his eyebrows dipped grumpily, you could see the shadow of a smile tugging at his lips. I remember, unfortunately. I don't know why you're pretending she's gotten better. This never gives me a break. He had to crack a smile. Cove was honestly a favorite target of hers for teasing, but so were you. You continued chatting about the trip a little while longer, about the things you had seen and done, and even eaten. A lot of the memories Cove had of the trip were similar to your own, but you were also surprised to hear a few other things from his point of view. So much had happened, and there was no shortage of things to talk about. The place certainly had a nostalgic quality about it. Your spirits were light as you ambled past information boards and picnic areas. But before long, you decided it was time to bring this short stop to an end and head back to the car to get on the road again. Cove sighed when you finally reached the vehicle, jangling the keys in his hand before unlocking the doors.
Well,
I wish you didn't have to go, but we're going to be responsible and not stay longer than we should. I'm growing up with you. He smiled slightly, and with that, the two of you jumped into the car, buckled in, and put in drive. You're getting closer and closer to town as the sun started setting, though you're still far enough away that the radio stations were unfamiliar to you. Cove twisted the dial this way and that before stumbling onto a channel with a song he seemed to like. That was a rare gift from the fates in the sea of static, strange radio jockeys and grating tunes. His face immediately brightened at the sound of it, and he drummed his fingers alongside the bottom of the steering wheel happily. Sitting back in his seat, he bopped his head along in time to the tune. You shook your head. Cove didn't seem to know, too lost in his own world to care. The song ended, and Cove reached over to start tucking through the radio stations again. Finding nothing tolerable, you took the dial off in defeat and leaned back in his seat with a sigh. You rested your head on your hand and stared out the window as the sky darkened, watching the landscape slowly melt into more familiar views. The miles went on, and any energy you had earlier was beginning to drain away. You imagined him home and your family. You'd be there together soon. You know, I spent all these years living in Sunset Bird and taking a few weeks each summer visiting my mom in that second room. That's not gonna happen anymore. Not really.
I mean,
I can still see my parents, but the way it all works between us has changed. Forever. He paused, the silent stretching. A serious look settled on his face, his thoughts far away. I'm worried about how things will be in the future. So many things will be different. I hope I'm ready for it. Cove's mouth pulled into a tight line, and he gave a small nod. You got the feeling that he understood how you felt. Cove stared straight ahead, down the long, long road. The path looked like it'd never end from where you were, but that wasn't true. Eventually, he found a few more words to say.
I'm so glad.
I think it's good we were able to do this trip, without any parents or chaperones. It was just us. We did it all. I don't know, I feel a little more independent now. A little more ready for what's ahead. Right. It's like a real first step to being on our own all the time. They'll be here before we know it. The topic seemed to wear on Cove. He made an attempt to find something else to speak on. I'm kinda sad about getting back. I'm gonna miss having you around tonight. He grimaced and leaned forward, his shoulders tense and his eyes hyper-focused on the road ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for that to sound weird or anything. It's just nice to hang out. Nothing strange, I can understand it. Cove gave you a small smile when you returned, and the two of you fell into a more comfortable silence. The sky outside grew ever darker as the hours passed by, the stars blinking on like tiny fireflies painting onto a canvas of blue. The scenery continued transitioning between open roads, industrial areas, and beach towns, becoming increasingly recognizable as time went on. You felt somewhat disconnected from the world around you as you watched it through your window, your tired mind growing hazy. It was a strange, reflective feeling, but peaceful nonetheless. Soon enough, the world will return to you, and you find your feet firmly on the ground. It can be helped. The adventure would end, luck could continue, but your memories would linger on. And that's all the time we have for this stream. We can do some more moments next time. I'll see you later.